Hi everyone. So you're probably looking at this video and thinking, what is going on here? This is not the same tank that we saw you cleaning up, that we saw you talking about converting to salt water. And you're right, it isn't. I got to the point with the tank where I was advised by the people at Fluval that whilst the project itself was doable and was an okay thing to do, the longevity of the tank, the longevity of its inhabitants was not going to be great. The lights itself would have been no good for really growing anything. In terms of the space for fish, there really wouldn't have been much. It probably would have been limited to a crab or a snail or maybe one fish. And they pointed out, why don't I have a go at starting the saltwater hobby with the Sea Evo? So here I am. Thanks to them for their advice and help in getting me set up with one. And as you can see, it fits perfectly on the sideboard that I had for the other tank. In fact, I already had pretty much everything else I needed to go in there. I already had the sand or the crushed coral. I already had the brand new rocks. These are dry rocks. These are not live rocks. And I had everything ready to make the salt water. So as you can see, I've gone ahead and set it up. I put it on a level table in the back chamber. Let's see if you can get up and see this over here. So it's very neatly concealed. So in the back chamber, you can see the first cable is running up here. It's running to the thermometer up there, which is telling me the temperature of the tank. So 26.4. I'll speak a little bit about what I'm doing with the temperature in this tank afterwards. In the back chamber here, which is all very neat and pops off. Just make sure any drips of water don't get away. In the back chamber here, I have a heater. This is the same heater I was going to use in the other tank. I have a sponge block that it came with. What I've done in the sponge block is I put a bag of Seachem matrix that I had seeding in a friend's marine tank to get some good bacteria growing on there. So I put that in there. In the third chamber just has the return pump that comes with the tank. Let's put this back in there. Keep it nice and tidy. Now the process that I went through is the first thing I did was I gave a quick rinse off to the rock, just in RODI water, reverse osmosis deionized water. I gave a wash off to the crushed coral base, and this was 1 4-pound bag of crushed coral. I went ahead and arranged the rocks how I wanted them, and then I went ahead and mixed up salt water. Now, I'll do a separate video on how I made and mixed up the salt water, but it's very, very easy. Everyone thinks there's a great mystery to mixing the salt water. Well, there really isn't. All I had to do was go ahead and source one of these. This is a hydrometer. So when I've mixed up my salt according to the manufacturer, I dip this into the bucket, fill it with water, and we're looking for the needle to go up to in around 1.024 to 1.025. And when that's ready, I went ahead, popped that in the tank. Now the nice thing about this tank, and I think about any nano tank, is that the initial fill, so when you first fill it up, it's going to take a little while. For me, it took 2 30-litre buckets, which when you're making reverse osmosis water can take quite a while. I think it took about half a day per bucket. The benefit of these tanks is when it comes to water changes. This is a 52-litre tank, so 10% a week. let's round it down, that's 5 litres. So actually, what I've gone and done is I've been to a local pound store and bought some 5 litre containers. So I've actually gone ahead and bought 4 of them. And you might be able to see them just down here. So you can see there's one there on the left hand side. Excuse the bottles of gin and the other paraphernalia. So the first one that we've got down here, the ones with the grey lids. So the ones with the grey lids are full of pre-mixed salt water. So when I had finished mixing the water for the tank, I left the remaining water in the lid with a grey bucket with a lid. There's a 5 litre bucket. So I've got down there roughly about 8 litres of pre-mixed salt water. And the one here with the blue lid, this is plain unsalted RODI water. Now, over time, we are going to see some evaporation coming off this tank. Naturally, warm tank, warm room, you've got scope for some evaporation. Not an awful lot on this tank because we do have a really nice enclosed lid that you can see here. The only thing it's got is a little feeding hole, but there is a nice enclosed space there with the light, and there's not much escape of water. It all condenses onto the lid of the tank, but it still means that you do have to keep an eye on the salinity in the tank. Salinity meaning the level of salt, because evaporation leaves the salt behind. So I'll do a little demonstration of how I check the salinity and do a top off with the unsalted RODI water. Because it's quite a warm room I'm in, I don't really need to worry about heating the water because it stays at around about 20 to 25 degrees in those pots anyway. The 4th pot I got is with a yellow lid, so when I siphon off the 5 litres of water, it goes in the yellow pot, so we know yellow means dirty water, and I can just discard that down the drain. Filled the tank up, brought it up to temperature, put in the media that had been seeded in another tank, and then left it. And you can see here I've got one nozzle pointing upwards, that's giving me some surface break. I've got one nozzle pointing towards the center island of the corals. What that's going to do is give me some flow if I want to have different corals, if I want to have different fish that like different levels of flow. And I can add a wave maker in here. They do a small Fluval one. So it's been filled up. I started off feeding the tank with a little bit of flake food, and I added one of these Seachem ammonia alerts. Very, very cool thing. I'd never actually used one, and then a friend of mine pointed out to me it's really good because in the early stages you just put it on there, you wait for it to change colour, so it goes green, blue, dark blue or yellow, and then you'll be able to see where the cycle's at. So this was running for about 2 days, feeding it. There was a slight increase in ammonia, but then that dropped back down, so the seeded media must have been good. So I added this guy up here, a small red leg hermit crab, and he moves like nobody's business. He's all over the tank, he's cleaning up the food that's fallen there, and he has a little perch spot right there on top. So I had him for a few days, and at the same time as getting him, I got a bottle of Dr. Tim's One and Only. Well, technically not the official Dr. Tim's One and Only. I got it from Aquarium Systems. It is made by people that make Dr. Tim's, and it mentions Dr. Tim on the bottle. Live nitrifying bacteria. It costs £10.62. I'm sure it's the same from your local fish shop. And I dosed it at 30 mils for this tank on day 1, and I added it again on day 2 and day 3. And around about day 3, I also added this attractive pair of blue damsels, and they are now in the relaxed phase. They move really quick. They're smart guys. They're really bright colour. That's what I wanted really, some nice bright vibrant colours. But they did spend a little bit of time hiding out in the caves and the hideaways there. But there they are. They're nice and swimming around. I'm assured that it is playful chasing. It's not vicious, aggressive chasing. They are peaceful fish. And what you can see here is we do have some signs of bioactivity in the tank. We have what is described as the ugly phase of setting up a marine tank. Everyone keeps telling me, oh, you're in the ugly phase. So you can see here, we've got the brown algae on the gravel, and this lovely brown hair algae on the rock. This is perfectly natural and will go away with reduced lighting, but also with potentially a snail or two will go ahead and eat that. And you can see it moving. That's the flow in the tank from that second nozzle. It goes on up this rock, a little bit down here, and it is spreading across the gravel. Now the stuff on the gravel I could siphon off during a water change, but actually I'm going to rely on some snails, which hopefully I'm going to be able to source fairly soon. So that's up and running. I don't plan to add anything else, like I say, maybe a snail. And I am going to add a black background to the tank just to make sure that any light from behind doesn't get in. You can see the blinds in my office there. Once cycled and we're happy with it, I will take the ammonia sticker and maybe place it completely out of sight so that nobody can see it, but it's there for my reference if I need it. Could potentially put it at the back of the chamber. And I'll just continue to monitor the tank, feeding once a day with a flake food, maybe even some freeze-dried live food. And that's it really. As I make changes or see things happen, I will be sure to add the video to it. And yeah, if anyone's setting up one of these, I'd love to hear from you what you've done, how you're doing it. Am I missing something? Please like the video, subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll go from there. Thanks a lot.